What's up, guys? Welcome into the Funshop podcast with Greg and Ronnie. We are streaming to you live from Los Angeles, California. How you feeling today, Greg?
Good. I'm doing my Kash Patel impersonation.
Oh man, I'm not too. I haven't watched Harold and Kumar in a long time. What's the Kash Patel?
Never mind.
No, it's a political thing.
Yeah, he's the head of the FBI.
Wow.
Director of the FBI.
Then I won't say anything bad about him.
Don't say anything bad. I'm doing all right, man. It's a good day today. It's October 8th in Los Angeles. 2025. This is our 14th show.
Episode 14. I was just about to say.
Big 1-4. And man, just kind of hanging in there. How was your weekend?
My weekend was busy. My folks are visiting from out of town, from Taiwan. What's up, Mom? What's up, Dad? They're visiting from out of town, so I had to, do a lot of preparation for their visit. Just, boring stuff: laundry, washing sheets,
cut all the feet off your chickens.
Yeah, no, that was cutting the feet off chickens was for Grandma, R.I.P. But no, my parents, bedding, make sure we got enough towels, pillows, boring stuff like that. But we did good.
You gotta take care of your mom and dad.
Yeah,
it's important.
I did go to PCC.
Yeah.
First time in a while. Very fertile this week.
Yeah.
In Top Gun speak, I would say it was a target-rich environment. Yeah, for sure this week. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, dude. Even for me, because I was doing the Rare Book Fair, which I could get into that in a second. But so Sunday, the show at the Rare Book Fair started at 11. So I was kind of like running against time because I knew I wanted to go to PCC.
Right.
And, I got there my normal time, 5:30. And, I was ready to get out there at by 9:30 latest, man. And there was just so much paper. There was like an abundance of paper, like the stuff that I look for. Maybe, I think it was like the same with, it was like, it was everything. It just seemed like a lot of people just brought out a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like the time of year, but man, I mean, I would have, if I didn't have to go to the show, like I literally got to the show I was in my booth at 11:02.
Wow.
And that was like going home, taking a shower. Well, Lisa was supposed to drop me off and she was still sleeping. So I was like, well, I got to take the car. So I went there and then I had to, if you've ever been to Union Station, if you can't park like right in front, you got to park like all the way like behind.
Okay.
And so anyways, I made it. But yeah, dude, I would have probably been there for another 3 or 4 more hours.
Wow.
Just there was like that much stuff to look through.
Yeah,
so.
we spent good time there too. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Good grabs. Let me see. I don't think I found anything like too over the top, but I did find a carded set of Fifth Element Super 7 Reaction.
That's cool.
Yeah, I had a loose set, and I found a carded set, so I'm like always down to what is it, like power upgrade, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of want to keep them all. So
yeah, and I found you some vintage Power Rangers.
Yeah, Power Rangers and Ben Cooper
And
Joker
Ben Cooper
set.
Joker
Already in the case over at Toy Depot in Whittier, so go get it if that's your thing.
Yeah, I found a lot of cool stuff. I mean, one of my best finds this weekend was my
okay. I'll put you on this.
My Robert Kardashian business card.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I think actually, a friend of mine actually sent it to the son, to Rob Kardashian. Is that I think he's also Rob Kardashian.
Yeah, son. I'm not clear.
And he actually said it was kind of funny because it's an old card, and I guess one of these guys is like an OG like Armenian attorney, and he's like, unfortunately, I think he's dying. So prayers to his family. But I mean, really cool vintage Kardashian card.
Yeah. Rob Kardashian, he was on the TV show.
Yeah, I think he wore Mishka a couple times too.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So
yeah, that is neat.
I got that, and
I like the other one. Did you?
Oh yeah, let me show a few of my finds. This was a funny one because I collect these kind of. Well, I collect business cards, but this is a business card for some kind of alcohol service called Surfer Girls, and. It says, relax in the comfort of your home or hotel with a nicely tanned, fully nude masseuse. I mean,
who can say no to that?
There's no matching words there. And then I think
I'm sorry. And just one thing, what I love about it is no area code. We don't even know what city it's in.
222.
222. I mean, it's like the 555, like for movies.
Yeah.
You know. So
Yeah, it could be.
yeah. Sorry to cut you off. But
No, it's
I love
okay.
that
And then
about that.
last but not least, this was another find at the market was the first issue of Maximum Rock and Roll.
So like even I was unfamiliar. Like it's a punk magazine, punk zine.
It's like a northern. It started in like San Francisco.
Okay.
Back in like I think it was based off a radio station, like a punk station.
Pirate.
Yeah, I think maybe a pirate, but I believe this issue. I also had this compilation because so like when you're in the East, like it's hard. It was hard, at least when I was a teenager, to really find out a lot about West Coast punk.
Okay.
Because, it just there was such a divide then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I remember though, like, Florida is a great place, or it was a great place to dig for records. It's like the thrift stores. Like I'd always see like dudes with like, headphones and like little record players, like even back in the day, And I found this comp called Not So Quiet on the Western Front.
Okay.
And it was a punk compilation that was produced by Maximum Rock and Roll, and it came with a zine. I remember that was like my first time I heard like Millions of Dead Cops and 7 Seconds and those type of groups that even that are on the cover, like even Dead Kennedys to a point, but and then I remember like as a teenager getting into punk rock, there wasn't like, especially in Orlando, there wasn't much. And I remember though that you could find these zines sometimes at the punk shows, but then I guess they got distributed by, do you remember kind of like back in the late 90s when like Barnes and Noble started carrying, like in their magazine section, you could go in there and find like smaller magazines,
more
stuff.
Counterculture
More
stuff.
counterculture.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
when they started getting more anime stuff too, or like the beginning of like skate culture, they have to have skate
like
stuff.
The skates and like
absolutely.
They'd have. I'd always pick up this magazine called 40 in Times, which was like from the UK, and it was all about like unexplained phenomena and stuff like that. And they also had this other one I remember by called I think it was called like Paranoia, and it was all like like New World Order, like world government.
I feel like the some at Barnes and Nobles, and then later on, like the magazine section at like record stores, like Tower Records would even have stuff like
exactly,
that.
exactly. So
I love it.
So I remember as a kid, they started carrying Maximum Rock and Roll, at Barnes and Noble. I think eventually, it's like probably like got a subscription for a little bit, or like wrote to them for the magazines. But being able to pick it up and essentially, it just was like super dense magazine with like interviews and mostly too was like for the ads, because like everybody would like advertise in there, and so you'd have, so this is issue 1, which I've just never had a copy of. I might do something that's like, I don't know if you want to say, maybe is it less punk rock or more rock? I think I might get it.
Yeah, that's what it was. I guess there's be some irony to it, maybe, or
maybe a little bit.
But it's, if there's collecting value to it, you want to,
But even the fact that I have it in like a case, it's just in such good condition that I just think like, for people that care about that stuff, it might be kind of a cool.
Maybe
cool
scan
one
it. Scan it first.
Scan it.
Scan it first, because the thing with slabbing is like you'll never be able to see the inside again.
Oh yeah.
So maybe photocopy the inside, or at least take pictures of the inside.
But
first, I would.
Yeah, so that was like my pickups. But then the Rare Book Fair was cool. It was actually, they actually sold out. They sold out of tickets.
Wow.
Because I guess there's like only a certain number of tickets they can sell, where like if everybody came at once, it would, there couldn't be a fire hazard. So
right.
It was pretty busy. Did pretty well. Met a lot of people. I think the one cool thing that I sort of realized, especially because there was a lot of younger like visitors this time, which I think was part of the tie-in they had with Guillermo del Toro, Frankenstein, and they did on Friday night. They did they did like a talk with him with one of the book dealers, and it was actually a benefit to raise money for the Palisades Library.
Okay,
and
cool.
they I guess that burnt down, so they raised like $100,000, which I thought was cool. Like 50 grand just from people going, and then I guess Guillermo matched it with another 50 grand.
Wow.
So it brought out a lot of younger
grand.
$100,000. But yeah, like so I don't know. I think it was interesting because the way that I curated it from like kind of how it used to be, where like more of the buyers are, I don't want to say it's high end, but like more people are expecting at a higher price because it's more curated. But in this case, I realized, wow, I probably could have sold a lot more material if I had, the same kind of categories, but things like $100 and less.
Right.
Because I just think there were a lot of people that were like really interested, but just kind of young and maybe like novice collectors. So, not to say they wouldn't spend $300 or $400 on a flyer at some point, but when you're just collecting, I mean, there's plenty of things that you don't have that you could buy for $10, $20, $30.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, how it is. Like,
of course,
at a certain point of collecting, it's like, okay, well, I have all the like little things, right? Now I need the like mint on card, or I need the, AFA 80 of it. You know what I mean?
Whatever gets you off, right?
Right.
That's what's so fun about collecting. It could switch from thing to thing.
But it's like also to me, like now being like a dealer, I feel like, and sort of also, I guess also like, like I like meeting the new generation as we get older.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Especially the females. No, I'm just kidding. Well, maybe I'm kidding.
But just to like also explain to them, like there's this, there's a bigger world of, stuff you can collect and, historical items. And so it also kind of gave me, the idea. I'm like, man, maybe I should be doing more like pop-up stuff around town. And so like kind of like what we did at like Rude Shop, but do it even like try to get into even more events and like, be able to curate like a small section of what I do and like really affordable, like, photographs, flyers, books.
Quantity, not quality.
No,
But also
quality.
quality.
No, quality.
Right.
But yeah, well, just because like, I mean,
but putting the quantity ahead of quality, just to have lower prices, right? So you have more cheaper stuff.
Right. I mean, it's just like any show where it's like, you're going to have your, your dollar comic box, but then you're going to have your graded, whatever.
Yeah.
AF-15, maybe. Yeah. Hopefully. Why not? I don't have one. Never will. But no, it was cool. It was like a really cool event, and it was cool. I think I told you, and I'm sorry, lovely listener, I can't recall your name right now. I'm not gonna make it up, but somebody came up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm a fan of the podcast, and I've learned a lot." And I was, of course, I made the joke. I was like, "So you're the one guy that's listening."
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's we appreciate every listener that we have, but I feel honestly to make an impact, comment. The comments make the biggest impact just because we get so few of those.
Yeah. But we do appreciate. No, I did. But
that's great.
I did appreciate to hear someone that liked the podcast, and I think we do.
I love it when it crosses where it's like because you have a group of people that a lot of people I haven't met yet, and vice versa.
Sure.
So I love it when our groups can kind of like, I know Ron through blah blah blah. You're great.
Right.
So we meet each other's groups of people and stuff. I always think that's fun.
No, yeah, it's totally fun. Like I wouldn't even be able to say, like, was that more of a Greg guy or more of a Ronnie guy?
Yeah. And hopefully I want people that are just floating all about or across the United States. Oh, I'll take this opportunity to shout out our buddy Dustin in Pittsburgh, who's been throwing our slaps around town.
Oh yeah, he's been.
That's awesome.
Because
we need more publicity and advertising. We're trying to figure out how to do more of that.
So it was cool, and now I have like, I'm just. I don't have anything. So I guess, we could kind of go into the next.
Yeah.
Decon if you want. We could talk about Decon first, maybe.
Yeah, if you feel like that's good. Before that, just on a side note about the Rare Book Show too, I'm always curious about like convention food, So did you catch it, the menu of what they were selling there? Or did they have food trucks, or what was the food situation?
Well, no. So it's in Union Station.
Okay.
So there's already like restaurants in there, and then they actually cater it for the.
Oh, okay, beautiful.
So all the exhibitors like they. I mean, I couldn't really eat much because of my dietary restraints.
No.
But,
That's what. But I'm just curious if it was like if they had the chicken tender set out.
No. They
or
actually it's they actually
Okay.
like serve you like food and stuff. So
the hack would have been to go outside Union Station, go across the street to Philippe's French Dip.
I think a lot of
French
people were
dip.
talking about that.
That's the hack. But
Yeah.
leading what you were talking about, Decon. Yeah, I think it was this past weekend. Also, was DesignerCon Asia.
Yeah,
I believe
saw a little bit
I
about
believe
that.
was in Hong Kong. And just because I've been excited about DesignerCon Las Vegas coming up next month, their 20th anniversary show, by the way. So I don't know. I was just really excited about that. I don't know very much about it. I didn't look very much. I don't really go in on like the convention exclusive toys and stuff. So I didn't pay too much attention, but it's always interesting to see, knowing that like, Ron English was there signing and stuff, and they had DJ Soda, So I'm like, what's going on? Like that's cool.
I didn't talk about this, but since we have that 10 by 20 booth, we could set up the podcast in there.
Yeah. To go through that, like my thing with that is like the Ethernet, and the Wi-Fi.
I think that's all
Wi-Fi,
but,
but we got to plug that. I
got to see how much that costs.
Yeah,
but it could be cool because if we did it, we could potentially have people on.
Absolutely, random guests that are just having to walk by.
Yeah.
Like
that could be kind of fun.
Because you don't know who might be there. There's a lot of like I remember when it was in Pasadena, like every year there were like DJs that I liked, hip hop guys, like Q-Bird and Z Trip, and I could go down the list. So some of them, a lot of them escape me now, but that was always a highlight, seeing the celebrity hip hop DJs and stuff like that. But I don't know.
I don't know. It's just an idea. I was just thinking, but maybe not.
It had crossed my mind too. That's always a possibility. And I'm always like trying to figure out how to do like a mobile studio, But we still have enough time to
either way, we'll be there. We'll have a Mishka booth and maybe Ronnie's vintage closet.
Yeah. I'll be hiding in the vintage closet.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But yeah, it's always fun. Looking forward to the. I don't know if eBay will have the card vault, machine where you can get graded cards, but I know they're around Las Vegas too. So
so there's like these like people that don't know, there's these vending machines now where it vends a graded card, like
Pokemon
a random
or
you can either pick like sports or Pokemon, and then. I don't know, Ron. You actually did well. Like I think you pulled a card worth because it was $100.
Yeah, $100 to buy it. It was a signed Chris Olave limited to 10, I think.
Yeah, yours was good.
Yeah.
Yours was worth like $350. I think mine was worth like
two something. I think.
No, yours was.
Yeah, it was 2 something.
Oh, it was 2 something.
Yeah.
Mine was worth like less than $100. So it was kind of
a roll of dice. But now it's like, man, like instead of playing tables, like I don't even want to play cards this time. I just want like. Whatever money I would have gambled with, I'll just spend it on the graded card machines and the graded the signed jerseys.
Oh,
I like those too.
Did you buy one of those last time?
I didn't see that machine yet. So this time I'm like gonna go look for those machines and spending a grand on.
I'm sure there's like somebody on YouTube or like one of those TikTok or something that like will tell you where they all are at this point.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If they're even still stocked,
Yeah.
But still looking forward to that. Always looking for started last year only, but
it was fun. I mean, it's a Vegas isn't that far away.
Yeah.
But it's just different. It's different than, staying down in Anaheim, and it's like, it's Las Vegas. And so, you're there for such a quick time, and, all your friends and artists and different people are in town. So, it should be a fun weekend.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Super looking forward to it. Always love getting away.
I remember, because you were like, oh, it's their 20th year anniversary, but I'm like, they haven't been doing Decon for 20 years. But
yeah. It's strange. I gotta do some more digging, but like just because I am a kind of a Pasadena head. I lived in Pasadena like during that time from 2000 to 2006. So like in 2005, I was going to Gallery Nucleus a lot in Alhambra.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my brother used to DJ there and get art from there. Shout out to Ben at Gallery Nucleus, and I think they had flyers for like an event called Keyology. I forgot who made the keys. The letter QEE. I think it was a Hong Kong brand.
Oh, okay, I remember that.
Yeah, they were kind of, they looked more like mice, and I think it was like their platform to kind of battle bear bricks.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So like I went to this event called Keyology it was in one of the small rooms at the convention center, and when I was watching them do kind of like the promos about their 20th year, they were talking about the small room there, and they showed some pictures, and I was like,
oh, so you probably were like at the first.
I think that was it. Yeah, and like I wish I could have some signed dated items, right? But I do have like. I think I still have it. I don't think I sold it because nobody was interested enough in buying it. But it was like a little platform toy, by this artist called Nakanari from Taiwan, and we're from Taiwan, so we talked with him a little bit.
Right.
And I think he signed it and he dated it like 2K5.
Yeah, so that makes sense because I remember I know that Mishka's been at every decon, but I felt like it wasn't until the first decon might not have been until like 2010 or something, or 2000, like the actual first,
right?
Which that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, when it was called Decon, and then so there was Keyology. I think they did that for maybe 1 or 2 years, and then like when I wanted to go back again, it changed to something like a vinyl, not Vinyl Plus. It was like Vinyl Toy Network,
okay.
And it was in like a little bigger room. So I don't know if those are related, but I feel like
it's got to be.
It felt like the progression that Vinyl Toy Network like became Designercon, because it was the one like designer toy show, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So like it only makes sense that was it. So I mean, just really cool to to think back and be like, oh, we were at these shows when they were little.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't remember those, but I loved like the first decons in Pasadena. I mean, those were just like some of the funnest times, and it was such a, the room was like, it was small and big, but it was like small enough that you could literally like almost talk to somebody at the other end.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was just really, especially, it must have been like 2009, 2010, because I remember too it being such a difference from San Diego, where the first couple of San Diego Comic-Cons went to, which was like 2008, 2009 was like the first one I went to, and even then it was already changing. But after that, I feel like in the next couple of years after that, I mean, it just like changed completely. Where any of like they just needed more and more space for like big studios and other advertisers and agencies and things like that.
Do you remember from when you started going, from the get-go that you went, they already had like toy lotteries and stuff like that? Or those weren't even needed yet? It was like later on when it blew up more where they needed a better system?
I think they still had lotteries back then. But I don't think it was as difficult to get stuff. But even then, it's like I wasn't really even paying attention because I was still more in the like, kind of soft vinyl world,
Right.
But I remember the first, I think it was 2009, 2008, like me and Lamore came out and like we slept on like somebody's floor, like somebody's hotel floor, because by the time we decided to go out, the hotels are like either non-existent or, like $400, $500 a night, where it's just so crazy.
Yeah.
But I remember like those early times, it was really fun because I think that's when Lamore, we produced the bootleg kaiju. And I think like that was the first time I met like Buff Monster, and I think like Frank Kozik and Tara McPherson, a lot of the people that I had built relationships or remained friends with, I met them at the San Diego, which was cool,
San Diego or Pasadena?
San Diego.
Oh, okay.
But then, like, but I'm saying, like, after that, I feel like those first early San Diegos we went to, like, in the next couple years, we stopped going because everything just got, like, super corporate. Like,
right.
Even to the point where, like, people that had booths on the floor, like, were no longer having booths because, they needed... because that
MCU or like
like MGM or one of those big companies. It's like, oh, they're gonna have the whole cast of like or like HBO. I remember like one time the whole cast of like Game of Thrones was there.
Wow.
It was like the first, second season, or like like Walking Dead. They would have these giant things with like zombie, like zombie actors. It was like a whole like set and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always cool to see, but.
Hollywood got involved in San Diego.
Yeah, well, whatever.
you either sell out or you do your own thing and stay true.
Well, I think it also gave, I think that's also, it was like the bigger. I think in some cases though, what happens is it it opens up for a designer con to kind of come through where, it's like, okay, people are sort of, you can't really build, you can't really, if you're an independent artist, it's going to be hard to get into, or impossible to go to like Comic-Con, but like a D-Con, where it's like, okay, we're going to have established artists, but we're also kind of like, engaging with and helping the new generation of artists to, meet their, favorite artist, or, find new customers, or collaborate, or just, get yourself out there so that people can see it, which has always, to me, been the cool. I mean, every time I go to D-Con, I always like try to walk through like the back sections where the artists are, because sometimes they're just sitting there and you never know. I mean, it's
the ones at D-Con stick out a little bit more maybe than the ones that would be at like, a San Diego Comic-Con.
For sure.
Like just because of that,
Well, yeah, and at like a San Diego or like a New York, it's like you're either going to have people that are just straight up doing comics. Right. Where with Designercon, it's like you might have people doing comics, but you also have people doing like plushes or vinyl toys, crochets, or, whatever it is that they're into, you know? So I think that's what's important about D-Con, is just giving, an outlet. And just, anyone that's thinking, just always remember that, a lot of the times you do these things, it's the marketing is the most important thing sometimes.
Yeah, I think definitely for the small artists that are more into craft, that maybe drift more into craft than, arts, that's a good show. Like compared to like, a card show that I've seen some of those artists at too. Like the D-Con show is great.
Well, even just in the soft vinyl section, in the kind of like art, in that world, like not necessarily, the urban vinyl, but like, the other people doing Japanese or even the Chinese kind of sort of taking, making their own kind of version of it, or doing a similar technique. And, now, I mean, the last D-Con, there's so many different, producers from all over the world. I mean, a lot from Japan, like I said, China, like Mexico, I think there's even someone maybe from Brazil.
Wow.
So that whole world has also expanded. So, for people that are maybe may or may not listen, that are on the fence about going to D-Con or wondering what it's like in Vegas, it's actually, I think, just as, just as alive as it's ever been. And in some cases, it's a lot better because it's like a brand new convention center. It's like really easy to park, really easy to get in and out of,
I feel like just to compare it with Anaheim, the one in Vegas seems a lot more network friendly, a lot more network conducive, because people aren't really going home. They're gonna be doing some partying. They want to hang out and do some drinking. It's a lot more social. In Anaheim, it's like there's not really a place to go to. Like Disneyland
like even like not everyone's even staying at the same hotel.
Yeah, and the hotel down there is crowded with other people doing like Disney and like other things. You know, Vegas is all people trying to party, which is like, I don't know, it's just way cooler. It's an amazing atmosphere, and I mean, I just hope like last year was their first year in Las Vegas. I can understand that some people were tentative or whatever, were traveling, but hopefully, it caught word, and like, I don't know, I'm doubly excited for this year after having experienced it last year and being able to do some improvements and streamline it a little bit, streamline the whole weekend.
I think the problem too is some people have just had like really bad times in Vegas, and they've like, well, no, just hear me out. Like, I've been to Vegas a lot more since I've lived out here. Yeah. And I've been to Vegas to like go to a concert. Right. Where it was like, and so going there more, I've gone to like buy like collections of stuff. Right. So, the mystique of Vegas, I'm like over it. Right. But if you've only gone once, or it's like, I haven't been, it's like the last time you went to Vegas, like most people that go to Vegas kind of like, they're like, oh, I want to get crazy. Like I want to go get drunk, and I I want to go to the strip club, and I want to eat at the buffets, and all this stuff. So it's like I could see, but then it's like once you just realize that, like, okay, Las Vegas is just a city. You don't have to go into a casino if you don't want to. There are other things to do I mean, you can even stay places that don't have casinos.
Yeah,
you know?
it's dope being away from the strip.
And Decon, it's not like on the strip at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like kind of in like the
Fremont.
middle of it's near Fremont, but I mean, it's far enough away where like you step outside, like you're not even seeing a casino.
Right,
Like you
right,
you could be anywhere at any
Yeah.
convention center in any
Yeah,
city.
it's next to they had built it. I knew that area. I didn't know that convention center, but I knew it because the Las Vegas outlet, like all the clothing outlets,
Yeah.
they built it there.
But I think
They
that's
put it right there.
But I think that's why a lot of people don't want to go to Vegas, because they have this like kind of idea in their mind of like how Vegas is or how they're supposed to act. But you don't like, you don't have to go crazy, and you're kind of like you said. I mean, that's for the main reason is the networking, because everybody, obviously this time we're going to stay downtown.
Yeah.
We're not going to stay,
Yeah.
on the strip, but it's like everyone's hanging out, everyone's drinking, everyone's partying, or everyone's just like, playing cards or doing whatever. And then, and obviously there's plenty of nice places to eat and, shows and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
we're not, this is not, we're not getting paid, but it's,
Well, eat some hallucinogenics and walk down Fremont Street and look at all the crazy people. Get some White Castle again.
that's right. That was funny,
It's
man.
my tradition.
You guys were out of it, you and Jared.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean,
I will say though, I will say that the French fries at like 2 a.m. or whatever it was, they were really good.
Yeah, I actually don't even think it was that late. I think it was like 10. We were just so tired from the
I know,
drive and moving
yeah.
stuff and whatnot. But ready for that.
Yeah.
Always thinking about that. And I mean, just on a personal note, I already have a road trip planned this weekend, so it's just like just planning on all
already
this driving
thinking of
and
it.
trips. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Speaking of driving and trips, I mean, we were just one of the things that kind of I was talking to my friend's girlfriend, and she was she's a vintage clothing dealer.
Okay.
This was actually this past weekend. I don't know if it was at the flea market or the fair, one of the places. We were just talking about, because I've never considered myself a vintage clothing dealer, but I do sell vintage clothing. I'll buy it if it's there, right? Like if I go somewhere and there's but I also, I've sold vintage t-shirts for a long time. Like even back in 1998 when I started eBay, I think, I was selling vintage tees even back then. I only say that because now, it's sort of exploded. I mean, the vintage market is, probably bigger and taken more seriously than it kind of ever was before, where, it's almost like, oh, cute, you like shop at the thrift shop,
Right.
And,
trying to save money
or something. And then it was like, oh, like some of these shirts go for like $100, and like now it's like kids selling like $10,000 t-shirts and $4,000 hoodies, and so we were just like talking about it, and she was mentioning, oh, I mostly buy from a rag house, which if you don't know what that is, it's like it's the places that buy this like bulk
where they do pounds.
They sell by the pounds,
right?
yeah. But she was just saying how most of her shopping she has to do there because she's kind of like she's sort of once you're in that mix, like you kind of can't stop buying, because then they'll so she's like, I mostly buy there. But then she was talking about how like, well, there's some kids now that are like breaking into abandoned houses and knocking down the walls because like depending on where it was and how old the house is, somebody might have had to use old clothing for like insulation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I would not have thought of that.
Yeah. Like I was actually talking to my buddy Nathan earlier, and I was mentioning it to him, and he was saying, because he's in the East Coast. And so a lot of times in estates and stuff, he goes into attics, which, out here, there's not really attics.
Right.
And,
well, not ATTIC, let me be ADD.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, he said, oh, he'd find like clothing kind of stuffed, in the,
right. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then, so, we were talking about, I was like, oh, I want to talk about it on the podcast. And then when him and I were talking today, he's like, oh, if you're on this Instagram Bid Stitch, which is this like vintage clothing Instagram, he's like, they actually produced a documentary, Bandos. So we watched it.
Yeah, we
before.
did.
Yeah, before we started, we grabbed some
about
lunch.
a half an hour.
Yeah,
it's
go to the Bid Stitch. But it is interesting. I mean, I mean, these kids in here, they're it's kind of funny because it's well done in a way, but I mean, they're just like breaking into like houses that they're like breaking into houses.
They travel to Appalachian country, right?
Yeah.
Which is what, like West Virginia, Kentucky, like that kind of
Yeah,
area.
it could be like Florida all the way.
Okay. So like in the South, pretty much Civil War era. What I learned recently, I thought I forgot if I thought I might have talked to you about it, but it was another toy friend told me about kind of like the Appalachian culture, about how they were generally poor and they were kind of taught like not to throw away anything.
Yeah.
That's why there's so many we were talking about vintage toys actually in Ohio and Pennsylvania. That's why there's so many vintage toys there. And I guess it's the same thing with the clothing and stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, lots of interesting footage of these guys. Like every entrance was like kicking down a door or like going through a window. And it's like, really, it's like, well,
it was an interesting thing because they even interviewed people around town, and the people were kind of like, care. Well, but they didn't care. But the general consensus was kind of like, yeah, it's like, it's not really right to break into somebody's house, even though, even though like these kids are like, showing the condition of some of these houses, and you have like these clothes like laid on a bed that's just like infested with like mouse droppings and like fungus, and so how long has this stuff been sitting there? And if nobody comes in to take it, then it's just gonna decompose. But then there's also like, but it's also not yours.
Yeah, they have no license.
And there's no like, you don't really know if the house has been abandoned for 20 years or 2 years or 2 months. Maybe somebody's coming back.
Yeah.
So,
and even if it was abandoned that long, that doesn't give you the right, no matter how long it was.
Yeah, no. Well, and I think these kids in this video were young. It was really funny how they kept on talking about the Rose Bowl, which I thought was like, that one time at the Rose Bowl, we brought these giant bags of
we couldn't even empty
we couldn't
them.
even put them on the rack. Everyone's just going crazy because I wanted our Bandos.
That's your FBI disguised boys.
Oh
FBI
yeah, and they were all FBI disguised,
Yeah.
which they were like, the kid in the beginning is like, I'm the founder of BidStitch, and we're gonna make cool documentaries. And then he's like, we blurred out their face, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, you didn't blur out his face, like you literally like. It's like a
witness protection,
and then like, oh yeah, we just found this 1930s sweater in the
definitely 1930s.
Yeah, definitely 1930s.
But it's interesting. I guess to see how, if you can call it a hobby or a business. How it fuels some people to go that deep to grab these things. And this is the one kicker. The one thing I saw them grab was that it was like a wartime. Like
the wartime piece,
it was a Japanese flag or something.
Yeah,
and it felt like it was military and historical and stuff. And I was like, they're not going to take that, and they took it.
They took it, yeah.
And they're like, oh, this is going to be in. This is going into my showroom. You don't have a showroom. It's my showroom. My showroom. But but it was it was fun, and I mean just whenever you see stuff that you don't normally get to see, especially if it might be a crime.
I mean, it would be a very, it's funny because it'd be a very odd story, right? Because even in the documentary, they're like, these guys hadn't gotten caught, but they were saying, if somebody caught them or like a neighbor saw them, the last thing they think they would be doing is like going and trying to find like vintage Bart Simpson t-shirts or something or whatever, whatever it is. So like having to explain, because it's like, I could just imagine like, they're like, okay, so what were you boys doing? They're like, oh, we were taking clothes. And they're like, well, if you need clothes, why don't you go down to Walmart and just like, I'll help you buy some clothes. Yeah. And then it's like, no, I'm collecting it and then I'm selling it. And, they're talking about some like, 1930s cardigan that's like, oh, and it says on the screen, like they later sold this for $1,000.
$1,000.
And so, it's kind of like, how do you describe that? And it's funny because when I was like sort of thinking of like, maybe weird collecting stories, I remember that, so as you know, and as I guess people know, I collect business cards, I collect old IDs, things of that nature. And, people know that I collect that. So, I went to an estate sale with our friend Mike Jones. Supposed to go who?
Who?
Mike Jones. Sorry. But you know,
This is my
so
cue.
me and Mike Jones went to this estate sale, and you know, we're walking around this house, and he's just like, "Hey man, I found like this bag in one of the drawers, and you know, here's like the person's like license and like stuff. Like, I know you collect this stuff, and you know." And I was just like, "Oh, you know, because that happens. I mean, sometimes you know the estates, like people pass, and you know they have their old IDs, and you know it's not like." So anyways, he gives it to me, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna hold on to it, and I'll wait till I get down to the table and say, I think literally like 3 minutes later, you know, the people running the fair, they're like, attention, can we have everyone's attention? Like Gloria's bag, somebody robbed her. They put all her stuff on the floor and they stole her ID and like credit cards. And I was like, and I'm like looking down, and it's like Gloria. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, Mike, what the? And he's like, dude, it was like, okay, if you've ever been to a estate sale, right? Like, you know, basically nothing is off limits unless there's a door that has like a sticker on it that says like do
they'll
not
mark it
enter.
off. Yeah, exactly.
But like, you know, you're encouraged, you know, and sometimes they'll just like you'll open up the desk and it's like they're you know, all of the stuff that, you know, they're old pencils, like pencil sharpeners. So, you know, Mike Jones, like he's like, dude, I just opened up this dresser and it was just in there. So I was just looking to see what was inside, and so, you know, it was like the lady that was working there, I guess she thought, oh, I'm going to put it in this dresser to like hide it.
But it was her personal belongings.
It was her personal stuff. So I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so I get down there and I'm like, okay.
We found this.
If I tell her that and then, you know, and it's like, it's not like I said anything right away, right? So it was like 10, 15 minutes later, maybe 20 minutes. And it's still like this, like, oh God, could you believe somebody would do that? And so I'm like, how the heck am I going to explain to this lady why I have this other lady's license in my pocket? And it was like, it was really innocent. Like Mike Jones thought that it was like the person who died.
Yeah.
And he thought, okay, maybe you want some like licenses, you know, for your collection or whatever. And so basically what I did, and look, I don't know if it's the right thing or wrong thing, but I was like, look, I'm not going to tell them because they're not going to understand. If they call the cops, it's even going to be harder to explain to them because no one's going to believe that I collect this stuff.
Right.
You know right. So, you know, I was like, look, we're going to go, I'm like, let's go right to a post office. And then I just put, you know, obviously I had her license. So I just put everything in an envelope and I just mailed it to her.
Okay. Oh, but okay. So, you know, you did what you had to do, you know.
Yeah, but I guess it goes back to this idea of if these kids were caught, you know, and then they're like, what did you take? And they're like, what did you take? Copper? Or you take some, you know, and then it's like you open it up and there's like, you know, like old clothes with like rat turds on it.
Right. An old 100-year-old sweater.
Yeah. They're like, wait, you kicked down the door to get a 100-year-old sweater with rat. Yeah, bro. But when you clean it and bring it to the Rose Bowl, you can get $1,000.
I mean, yeah, you got to know the market, right? A lot of people down there don't.
But I'm just saying, you know, it's so, you know, I think when it comes down to it, it's like, you know, you shouldn't be like knocking down somebody's house, you know, unless you have permission, like unless somebody says, hey, you know, like there's an abandoned house and like, you know, or like I know who owns it and like they don't, you know, that they're like, yeah, if you want to go in there and you don't cause like a mess or something, then that's cool. But yeah, but I guess, I mean, I haven't researched, but in the documentary, like right at the end, you went to the restroom and they said, I mean, you were just so excited
for everyone to know.
No, but like you missed the ending where it said, but it also said how there was like more people doing this now.
Right.
So it's like becoming more of a thing. And so, you know, there's like, obviously it's never a good idea to do any of this stuff.
When you had told me about it at first, I, you know, just Googled real quick and I found some Instagram posts for some reels and some TikToks and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, there's, you know, I can understand how like through social media, more people would get the idea of like, oh, let me check out some old, you know, abandoned places to see if there's clothes or whatever, or anything for that matter.
Because if you think about it, I mean, I think you know, I mean, there's got to be places where there's just, you know, abandoned.
Yeah, I've seen the posts of finding a abandoned factory of like Fleer hockey cards or something, or like production toys, or stuff that just didn't make it out. And,
Yeah.
I mean that anywhere you can get free stuff.
I think the other thing that they kind of showed in the documentary too was that these guys were kind of young.
Yeah,
and even they even interviewed like a dealer, like a clothing dealer who looked like maybe he was like in his mid 30s instead of his like early 20s probably. And even he was saying like, I don't know if I was younger and I was like collecting, like if I was collecting, like I might, I was wild enough that I might have done that.
Right,
so
right.
It's one of those things where it's like, look, if somebody told me they would do it, I would tell them not to do it. Like, I remember one time in Brooklyn, I saw these kids like throwing rocks into the BQE.
Yeah.
And I had to go up to them, and only because when I was a kid, I watched my cousin throw a rock in the highway, and he like hit a dude on a motorcycle.
Oh,
and fortunately, the guy didn't like anything happen. But I remember the guy ran up and like because it was like down off like this like cliff on a highway, and the guy like ran up, and like my cousin like sped away, and the other, he was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was just like. So I saw these kids in Brooklyn. I was just like, yo, man, like, you can't do that. Like, I know it seems funny, but imagine like your grandmother's driving and you like hit the car or something,
Yeah.
So
you tell them if you're going to throw anything off of a overpass, you got to do it like the Good Son style.
Yeah, throw a little dummy.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, man, yeah. It was the dummy. It was
the
like,
dummy.
You got to do Macaulay Culkin, Elijah Wood style, my friend. Cause some real damage.
Somebody, I was just looking at the comments. Somebody said something about dumpster diving.
Remember the dumpster divers behind GameStops? What would they find back there in the GameStops? Like games or?
Well, actually, when I saw it at the corner of my eye, and so what's up? That was Joe West Coast
what's
saying
up, Joe?
Hello. What's up, Johnny Ryan? He's at Wetzel Pretzel Con.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, dude, I remember I used to dumpster dive the Blockbuster Video by my house. Like when I was like in high school, and they would like, they would throw away like the old displays and stuff.
Oh,
so like
right.
sometimes you go back there and it was like, oh man, it's like the display from the Mortal Kombat movie or like something like that.
Elvira.
So I'm wondering like maybe Joe's talking about the GameStop. Maybe there was like, the same kind of thing, like, displays. I mean, dude, even when the Spirit Halloween closed over here, I remember going back to the dumpster and not purposely, but like looking, but just going to throw something away. And there was like, giants like skeletons and all the like, but somebody had just thrown some food on it. So I couldn't really take anything.
That's very interesting because when I think back, one point I wanted to bring up too, because when you started talking about vintage T-shirts and the old T-shirts and stuff, when we first met, like, I wasn't into really vintage tees yet. I think my brother might have been, but when we first met, I was like, I'm not going to wear old T-shirts.
Yeah.
Like I don't do that. And being Chinese, like we're into like new things, especially with clothing and stuff. And like, Chinese New Year, you wear new clothes, red colored clothes and stuff. So I just feel like, just growing up, like that was kind of our thing. Like we don't want to live in like old homes. We want new clothes. We don't buy used cars. We buy new cars, So I just feel like it was embedded in the culture, But then after being in it for so long, like toy hunting and stuff, you're inevitably gonna find, old cheap T-shirts. And you're like, I like these. I'm gonna wear it, and then I just started transitioning.
Look,
to vintage clothes, I mean.
Right, but then also, as much as you see and even as jaded as you get, at least for me, like I still get nostalgic. I think everybody does. So,
sure.
It's like, I'll go into like, I might just be at a market or, go into like Root Shop or something, and you see like a shirt and you're like, you remember, I'll pay $60 for that or $80, especially with, the price of just regular clothes now have gone up to.
Yeah, for some like a Ren and Stimpy shirt I had in high school.
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
An X-Men shirt for sure that I had in high school.
And also the great thing too is when we were back then, it's like everything was extra large. Remember? Like even if you were like, it was like kind of how it is now. Like even if you were like a skinny kid, you were still wearing extra large. So, it fits us fat guys. So.
And it was like those shirts like you would get from the kiosk at the mall because there was nowhere else to get it. There was no vintage ones. The only way to get one was at a comic book store or like at a mall kiosk.
Yeah.
Like that's where I would buy my comic book shirts.
I remember like in the late or like early 90s, I remember Kmart having started to get licensed stuff, because I remember getting like an Itchy and Scratchy shirt there.
That's cool.
And like a Mad Magazine shirt.
Yeah.
And like things like that, where they just were like, trying to test out the laces. But yeah, I mean, most of the stuff, it's like, where would you go? A kiosk, some kind of like a head shop, or like a record shop or something to get like a band tee,
There were even some I don't know if you know this little department store called like Steinbeck.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've heard.
Yeah,
I think
there was a Steinbeck we went to that would have cheap clothing, but they even had I bought an Anthrax shirt there. I forgot it was what Mad Magazine artist did the Anthrax, with all the members on it. And I bought the shirt. I thought that was the coolest thing. I wore it to school one time, and I got the dude, you don't listen to that band, and I've never wore it again. But I wish I had that shirt, because that shirt would be money.
Yeah,
so. Oh man,
no,
yeah.
I mean,
So you're definitely right with the nostalgia thing.
Yeah, I mean, because and especially, I actually like it now too, that most of the people that are into vintage, like, they're buying it to wear.
Yeah,
because I feel like for so many years, and I mean, even still to a point, I mean, when I looked at vintage stuff for people collecting, it wasn't necessarily about, oh, can this fit me? It's more about it's about the object, which is still the case for, I think, a lot of older dealers, but like a lot of the younger kids that are collecting and the kids that are buying, it's like, no, I want to be able to wear this $1,000 or $5,000 t-shirt, right?
Crazy, yeah.
It's not like, oh no, I don't want to mess it up. It's like, well, no, if I can't wear it, why am I going to pay $3,000 for it?
And it's come around full circle where it's like brands like Balenciaga, I think, are like, I don't know the designer, but like they have that, worn look,
Oh yeah, I mean, that's
so it's kind of gone into the. I just feel like it's the vintage look. It's kind of influenced the high end fashion.
Sure. Yeah,
but that's gonna happen with anything.
It's always gonna happen. Yeah,
I do love the look. The baggy, oversized, old concert tee with the baggy camo pants and the Crocs. It feels like a very standard.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable in, really.
I just feel like it's a cool look. I see the kids wearing at the flea markets. And
stuff. Yeah. Kids look definitely relaxed.
A little too relaxed. I like it. Yeah, too relaxed with that. You heard about that Gen Z stare?
No.
They give you that the blank. Like, I didn't know about. I read about it and I was just like, whatever. It's a thing until I actually got it. Like you
Gen Z, or is Gen Z the new generation?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Where it's like, hey, how's it going? Even like employees somewhere, like, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah.
Right. Oh, so that's just the Gen Z thing.
Yeah. I just or maybe they.
Well, I think Gen Z is just like antisocial.
Oh, is it?
Because they just talk online all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean,
so when they have to talk to real people, it gets like.
But what do I know? I mean, I'm a Gen Xer with with boomer parents,
right?
So
yeah,
I'm a few generations removed. Well, we got millennials before that, and then Gen Z,
something like that. Yeah,
but I don't like you can't group people on a 20-year window. A whole group of people. That's crazy.
Yeah,
but there are some things.
But the Gen Z stare though.
Yeah, it's just one thing I saw. I mean, it's some a fabricated social media thing.
I'm always like I'm always careful in general, because I remember when I was like in my 20s, or like 19, 20, and you're involved in, and then like an older person comes up to you and talk to you, you're like sometimes you could be like, oh, that guy. I mean, sometimes you'd be like you always want to be the cool guy, like you don't want to be the weird guy, right? Like, oh, that guy was weird.
Yeah, Right. You just got to come honest, right? Talk to them like people instead of the Steve Buscemi with the skateboard.
Right.
Hello, hello kids or whatever,
No, it's true though. It's because it's hard, because I think like as you get older, you realize like, oh shit, like it just takes time to learn things. Like nobody could tell you shit when you were young, and it's not like you could tell people shit now when they're young. You just have to kind of be like, okay, like I can't really tell them what to do. Like I can give some sort of advice, but it's always better just to listen to people, in that case, especially younger kids, and just be like, oh yeah, like what's cool? Like, what are you into? Like, what are you doing? Except, and because like, at this point too, it's like you have a lot more to learn from, the youth than they do for you in some cases, especially when it comes to like, new media, new technology and all that stuff,
I don't know. I mean, just, I was going to kind of, close it up and talk about this coming weekend too. But yeah, I'm visiting a high school buddy. He's our age, late 40s, whatever. He's going to be 50 this year, but he's got a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old boy. Wow. And he was telling me, he's like, yeah, one's starting to listen to Metallica. And the other one's, starting to get sassy. He's in junior high, he's in 7th grade, starting to get sassy. told his parents to shut up one time.
Oh,
I'm like, wow, all right.
Wow.
I'm like, sounds like I'm coming up to visit at the right time to, you know, kind of play a little bad cop, you know,
You're gonna
bad.
be like the cool uncle or something.
Nah, heck no. I'm gonna be the old high school buddy that's coming in and it's like, you know, I don't take no sass. I don't have kids. I don't take crap. I don't take crap from nobody.
Yeah.
You can talk to your parents however you want. You guys
Shut
gotta
up,
be nice.
Ron. You don't know anything, man.
I'll grab him by the collar. Listen to me, kid.
Do you even know who NBA Youngboy is?
Do you understand that I'm like your dad's best friend and he won't prosecute if I do anything to you? That's the kind of relationship we have.
Nah, I think no, you're a cool guy, so I think they'll be like, you know, like, oh man, like why can't you be cool like your friend Ronnie?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh,
you know, so I think I think
I
you're
don't
gonna.
want to do that. Yeah, because and tell them some stories too about how wild dad.
Yeah, you
was,
tell them some
maybe.
stories about their dad, and then they like, you know, it's like when Marty McFly went back,
Right.
you know, went back in time, you know, got to see what his parents were like.
Yeah, tell them about the '90s when we had to call each other on a landline. And
Oh, I
stuff.
I told you a story. Like I have my friend Nathan in high school. I remember like we we're gonna go out to see this band called Voodoo Glow Skulls.
Okay,
remember them?
Yeah, of course.
And they were playing in Daytona Beach, and you know that was like about like a half an hour drive or something.
Okay.
And it was a school night, but like, you know, we must have been like 17 or, you know, it was like 16, 17. And so I was like, oh, I'll take my parents' car and like, I'll come pick you up and we'll go.
Nice.
And so the way to do it was like, all right, I'm going to call before I leave, I'm going to call your house and I'm going to let it ring once. And I'm going to hang up.
Right.
So that's when you know. So I was like, then like, you know, I think the end of his block, there was like a little bit of like, you know, bushes. He's like, all right, I'll wait for you there. So I was like, okay. So I call, I hang up, I go outside. And then like, I try to start the car and I'm like, oh my God, my parents are going to hear me. They're totally going to hear me. I'm going to be in so much trouble. So I just like, I thought about it for a couple of times and then I just like shut the car off, went home and like went to bed.
Left your friend hanging.
Yeah, the next day my friend Nathan's like, dude, what the fuck happened? He was like, I was out there for like 2 hours.
Holy shit.
Because he just like, he had no, you know, he was like, oh, he's going to be here any second.
That's
you
what
know?
kids do too. You would wait a whole 2 hours.
Wait a whole 2
Like,
hours.
what if he comes now and
Yeah.
you know, and I'm not there?
And then, you know, it's like, come to find out. I know. I still feel bad, but I mean, I see him on Facebook. He has a kid, wife. He's doing all right. He's happy and stuff. But I mean, not that but it's just like a funny story. But then I remember like, you know, later on, this one kid that worked at the record shop, you know, that was like 21. He's like the old kid, you know, he was like, you know, I told him the story and he was like, well, you know, the show didn't even happen. It got canceled. And then he's like, you know, so he's like, I just ended up like kind of hanging out with them in their like, you know, tour bus or whatever, like smoking weed and drinking and stuff. And like, that wouldn't have been me back then.
Right.
You know, so it would have actually just turned out to be like, you know, a weird, miserable and potentially dangerous experience.
Right.
You know, like 16-year-olds driving, you know, on the highway and stuff at like, so I don't know, but
what you think you would have like been drinking and smoking?
No, because then I was like, I was totally straight edge. Like even then, you know, I like kind of was like, you know, because I was like, you know, when it's like when you already were like super, like I didn't do anything anyway. When you heard about straight edge, you're like, well, that's me. You know, so I was like, I'm already straight edge because I'm a fucking square.
I like to think.
Really,
I like to think if I grew up in Florida, I would probably gotten more into like Miami bass and like booty bass and break beats and stuff. There's a lot of that in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, definitely in Central Florida. I mean, I definitely listened to a lot more like hip hop and like R&B. You know, I wasn't. You know, I didn't really listen to like punk or like even rock, like because like my parents, you know. And like my brother, you know, he lists like, you know, I don't know, he listened to like, I mean, something like Fleetwood Mac and like Joan Baez.
Yeah,
I don't know, just you know, whatever. But
soft rock.
Yeah, but I never
folky stuff.
Yeah, like I never had really like heard like any heavy metal or punk till I was like, you know, a teenager.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I think that a lot of us are like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Your musical tastes don't expand to like junior high, high school.
Right, exactly.
And once you get to college.
Yeah. Then you're listening to like Will Odom and Palace.
I don't know who those people are. My first CDs that I bought when I my first semester of college were like the Weezer Blue album and Green Day Dookie.
Yeah.
Those were my freshman albums, and then like Vitology, Pearl Jam Vitology dropped.
See, I started getting into like
Oasis,
like C in the Cake, and like Portishead.
Yeah.
And
Portishead I didn't get
Belle
into
and
till later.
Sebastian.
Okay,
Modest Mouse. You
Okay,
know.
okay. Are those all emo or no?
No, like
Alternative, like a
Like,
little, like
yeah.
post alternative,
like
kind
post alternative
Yeah.
stuff. But I don't know. It just like my music kind of like got a little like just changed,
Yeah.
you know, but I don't know. It's all for the I mean, now it's like I don't know.
Whatever goes, right?
Right, yeah. Anyways.
No, I'm just trying.
No. It's funny because it's always interesting when you talk about music and like, you know, how you got into music. Like somebody even this weekend, like had asked me how I got into punk. And it's just like kind of funny because the way that I got into punk was such a like almost commercialized way compared to like, you know, generations before. But then, you know, but then the scene is like the scene.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Like the music's the music, but once you kind of get into the punk scene, it's like a different feeling. Like, you know, being around people that are like-minded and have kind of like always felt like sort of, you know, out of step with the world, you know. Sorry, it's a minor
I don't
threat
know.
reference.
It's okay.
Anyways.
I just know mosh pits and yeah.
Here we are now, entertain us.
Yeah, Nirvana, Naked Babies. I don't know.
All right. Well, 14 in the books, man.
Yeah,
Have a safe trip. And
thank you. Yeah, I will be making a road trip. Anything fun for you this weekend or anything going on?
I'll probably be at the Rose Bowl.
Ro-
with my Army bags.
At the Rose Bowl.
Check me out at the current Rose Bowl with my current bandos. I just got back from Guadalajara.
What else do you need them to do? Comment,
like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you all next week.
Peace out.